In our first program on the Middle East, I travelled to the Gaza Strip. There I met militant factions who were bent on the destruction of Israel. But I also met many more ordinary Palestinians whose only dream was a lasting peace with their Israeli neighbours. In the second part of my journey, I'm in Israel to try and understand what makes peace here so elusive.
Israel, and since it was born in 1948, it's been at war on and off with its Arab neighbours.
Israel is a small country on the shores of the Mediterranean. The Arab nations on its borders have all at some point been at war with the Jewish state. And Israel has endured a long and bloody conflict with the millions of Palestinians who were made refugees when Israel was created over 60 years ago. But today, the biggest challenge facing this country may not be the enemies on its borders, but the divisions between Israel's own Jewish population, with religious fundamentalists on one side and secular Israelis on the other.
And many might say the threat to Israel's existence doesn't come from its enemies on the border, but from the threat within.
It's hard to imagine peace in the Middle East until there's peace in Israel. And I've come here to find out why this conflict shows no sign of ending. To begin my journey in Israel, I've come to Jerusalem, regarded as one of the holiest cities on the planet. Within the walls of this ancient city, Muslims, Jews and Christians all jostle for space in a site that is sacred to them all. But beneath this peaceful exterior are the ghosts and legacies of some of the most brutal terrorist atrocities the modern world has ever seen. For decades, Palestinian militants have waged a war against the Israeli presence in the city that has resulted in hundreds of deaths. I'm with Amos Levy, a taxi driver from Jerusalem, who's giving me a tour of his city to try and explain what it's like to live with the constant fear of suicide bombers and terrorist attacks.
We've just been in the centre of Jerusalem there, in the main shopping area, a famous street where there were 3 suicide bombers in one day, wasn't there?
Then you understood.
3 in one day, huh? Yeah. And basically what they did was they detonated, waited for the paramedics to get there, then redetonated, then redetonated.
Yeah. The people in Jerusalem remember this place as a place with a terrible attack.
Yeah. But there are many more places like this, aren't there, in Jerusalem?
Yeah.
So many.
Here in Jerusalem, the landmarks are not so much temples or churches, but are the vivid memories of terrorist attacks.
So there's a coffee shop up here that there was a suicide attack.
Yeah, call it Cafe Moment.
It's called Cafe Moment,
yes. Yeah? I don't remember exactly the
number. It's a landmark here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone knows it, obviously.
And it was a bad attack with many injured and killed.
Yes.
And I know one of the mother, Rachel Dagan, and she lost her daughter in this attack with her fiancé. There was so 3 weeks before the wedding.
Everybody knows somebody who's lost somebody, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the coffee shop on the left. It was an Arab guy, dark skin, dark face, and dark hair, that he painted his hair blonde and play like a tourist or something, and he blew himself up.
In the last 15 years, there have been 34 terrorist attacks and suicide bombings on the streets of Jerusalem alone, on buses, in cafes and nightclubs. Over 210 Israelis have been killed in the city, and nearly 2,000 have been injured. The threat of an attack is ever present. Around the corner is the next stop on Amos's tour.
What happened at the bus stop?
There's a bus, number 20, going to the center of Jerusalem, explode in the suicide bomber. 14 people got killed, and it's about 40, 50 injured.
Did you know anybody?
Yeah, Dekla Zino. She's the daughter of a friend of mine.
But how do you live with it every day?
That was what I carry with me every day. And the next stop that I will show you, you understand why.
One Friday afternoon in March 2002, an 18-year-old Palestinian girl called Ayat travelled from her home in Bethlehem to this supermarket in southern Jerusalem.
Is this the supermarket?
Yeah, this is the one.
This is it?
Yeah, this is the supermarket.
She was wearing a belt of explosives around her waist.
So this is the place where it actually happened?
Yeah, exactly. I remember.
At the door of the supermarket, she was stopped by a security guard. And standing nearby was an Israeli schoolgirl called Rachel Levy, Amos's daughter.
Rachel, she saw the security guard fight with the suicide bomber, tried to catch her bag and to open her bag, and she tried to help him, or she was in shock, one of the things, and then it exploded. The security guard that died, he flew over here, this way, and she flew over the other side.
There's a memorial to her there, isn't there?
Yeah, this is for Rachel Levy and Chaim Smadar. As a security guard that was a brave that stopped the suicide bomber. This way he saved a lot of lives. He didn't save Rachel. I cannot blame him, you know, but at least he saved some others. Yeah. She was only 17, that's all.
Well, life's going on here, isn't it?
Yeah, life goes on. That's life.
Amos isn't alone in his grief for a loved one. You'd be hard-pushed to find an Israeli who doesn't know a victim of a terrorist attack. Suicide bombings are tragic and indelible chapters in Israel's history. It's forced this young nation to develop some of the most highly trained special forces in the world to combat terror attacks on its streets. I've come here to a remote training camp in the hills above Jerusalem to see one of these elite units being trained.
This is the headquarters of the Israeli Border Police. We've come here to meet Yamas, which is their counter-terrorist squad, and they're going to show us some of their drills and how they train. But they specifically operate in the Palestinian areas, and they generally work undercover.
Speaker Greenberg is one of the commanders of Yamas.
So, clearly a training area.
This is a training area. What we're going to see now, because we're in the Middle East, and the first target of us, the border police and the police, is to protect our civilian. For example, this is like Tel Aviv or street in Jerusalem, and we suffered a lot in the past.
Suicide bombers.
Yeah, suicide bombers. We have a lot of this, and because of that, we have a policeman from the border police inside the city to protect all the civilians. And what we're going to see now is a patrol. There is a few targets with guns. Those are the terrorists, and we have to kill them.
And you have to make your decision that you don't kill civilians.
Yeah, of course. Because of that, we are training.
No, exactly.
A lot of shooting training. We have a lot, and we have to make it selective.
What are you using? Simulated ammunition, or are you using real ammunition?
No, real.
Real?
Yeah.
Here they come.
They have to work very fast. There is a few terrorists over there. There is one that there all the time the driver is behind to be sure that the terrorists are dead. There is a grenade. What we have in our experience, the terrorists are throwing grenade when they are running. During the running, they are shooting all the people. They are inside the street. There is civilians, so we have to finish it quickly. Few seconds, and the terror attack is finished. Now he's going to pick the team
the guys up
and to go out.
In terms of active service, this is as high as it gets.
This is the high that they get, yeah. If you can't do the things like we want, you cannot be a warrior in this unit.
But there's also the danger that goes with it.
We have to ask them if they're afraid of the danger. I don't know.
I would be.
This elite unit is undoubtedly a deadly force protecting Israel from within. And since its inception, 5 of its members have been killed on active service. But the bigger challenge is defending the nation from the deadly threat on its border with the Gaza Strip. In 2006, the people of Gaza elected Hamas as their rulers. Hamas is an Islamic resistance movement that's internationally recognized as a terrorist organization. Since their election, rocket and mortar attacks into Israel from Gaza have increased, creating fear and hatred in the hearts and minds of ordinary Israelis. A few days ago, I was inside Gaza meeting the Palestinian militants who fire rockets into Israel. But now Mickey Rosenfeld from the Israeli police force is showing me what it's like to see things from the other side.
Where we are at the moment, we're approximately 100 to 150 meters from the border fence, which is manned and patrolled 24 hours a day. People who have visited in the past have been shot at. It's got to keep fairly low, fairly safe, and take into consideration that there isn't just a threat from security of Qassam rockets that are being fired.
So, Mickey, that's Gaza, yeah?
That's correct. What we have in front of us is Gaza City. We have
But very close. I mean, what's that?
very close. We're talking about 2 kilometers.
Yeah.
And Bet Hanun. Bet Hanun is the main area, the built-up area where those Qassam rockets are fired from.
Right.
The Hamas and the Jihad are firing rockets from this area into Israel. It can happen right now as we're standing here. It can happen this evening. It can happen when kids are coming out of the schools in the afternoon at 3:30 to 5 o'clock. We know that the Hamas fired directly at those hours in order to try and target those innocent women, children and families.
And how many people have been killed since 2001 as a direct result of rockets rather than suicide bombers, just of the Qassam rockets?
The statistics we have and that I know of is more than 24 Israelis that have been killed and more than 5,000 physically injured.
In response to these deaths and injuries, Israel has hit back with military attacks that have killed over 4,000 Palestinians. Most recently, in December 2008, it launched a controversial assault on Gaza known as Operation Cast Lead, which killed over 1,300 Palestinians in just 23 days of fighting. Israel was widely condemned for using disproportionate force, and now, like Hamas, is facing a possible charge of committing war crimes.
A lot of people say that during Cast Lead, 50% of the people that were killed were civilians. How do you answer that?
I can tell you that I've served in the IDF and we are a humanitarian army and we'll take into many different things into considerations in order to save lives and pinpoint and be accurate.
Despite the fierce cross-border fighting between Israel and Gaza, there are still communities of Israelis who live just meters from the wall that separates the two sides.
Matan? Hello. Shalom.
I've come to meet Natan, who has paid the ultimate price for living so close to Israel's front line.
I can't believe how close the wall is. It's very close.
Well, yes, we are about 300 meters from the Gaza Strip. They use the other side of the wall to send mortars here.
Yeah.
Once or twice a week.
Can you tell me what happened to your daughter?
Well, my daughter was in the school learning. It was about 6 afternoon. She came home.
How old was she then?
She was 22, and she come after the studies, and she parked the car here, and then they started firing 4 mortars. And then she did the open doors, and she started running.
From the car?
From the car. The car was here, and she ran up to this place.
Yeah.
The mortar come from the roof
Yes.
directly on his head.
So landed right on top of her?
Yes, from the roof, on this direction. And what is amazing is the silence that we are hearing now. It was the silence before the mortars, and is the silence before the next mortar.
And do you think that most of them are terrorists? Or do you
No, I am sure not. I am sure. I know people, very good people that live there. They want peace. They want to open their store and to sell clothes, or to open a restaurant. Yes, I know these people. And I respect them.
You are a man that suffered greatly. You've lost your daughter.
I lost, yes.
But you seem, I think, an incredibly forgiving man.
The point is to stop hating and to start talking. I think that it depends on people like me, common people. It's possible to solve if we start educating our children and their children to have a better life and to have a common life. We will live together. There is no way that the Jews will leave Israel, and there is no way that the Palestinians will leave Palestinian.
Exactly.
There is no way. So we have to find a way to 2 countries and 2 peoples. And on the situation right now, we are very far away from this. So it's time to start talking. And not just talking, doing.
Natan hopes that a future peace lies in both Jew and Arab coexisting side by side. But the more time I spend here, it seems that Jews and Arabs are being pushed further and further apart.
After a spate of suicide bombings, Israel took the controversial decision of building a security fence. When it's finished, it will stretch over 400 miles, separating Israel from the West Bank. But it's also had a dramatic effect on Arab communities like this one, effectively cutting them in 2.
2.5 million Palestinians live outside Gaza in a region known as the West Bank. And over the last 5 years, the walls between the Arabs and the Jews have quite literally got higher. The route the war has taken has proved highly controversial. It frequently veers off from the internationally recognized Green Line that separates Israel from Palestinian territory. This breaks international law by cutting Palestinians off from their own land. I've come to one of the most controversial sites of the wall near the Palestinian village of Nalim. Every Friday after prayers at the local mosque, Arab villagers gather to protest against what they see as a land grab.
Regular as clockwork, protesters from Nalim, a Palestinian Arab village over there, have come to throw stones at the Israeli Defense Force, the Israeli border police here. This is a regular occurrence, happens every Friday, and basically it's just started. Stones have been thrown from one side, tear gas from the other, and this is expected to go on for the next 5 hours. They've got a water cannon vehicle. I think it sprays something rather unpleasant. It's not just water. And the commander behind me has just called that in to engage the protesters on the other side of the fence. They can see it coming and they're actually withdrawing at the moment. They're running back.
We've set up a safe distance from the demonstration, but when the Palestinian protesters see us and our camera, they immediately advance on our position, leaving us pinned down behind a small blast wall.
They're quite close now.
With rocks raining down on us, we're unable to withdraw. It's only now that we realise that the protesters are themselves armed with tear gas grenades that had failed to go off during last week's demonstration.
And there's one. Tear gas now going. Bang. There you go. The guy right at the fence now. Right at the fence. Can you hear now? Please. Come here. Look. He's just thrown one back. Throwing tear gas, this guy here. There goes another one right at the wall. Right near.
As you can tell, we've just got tear gas back at us.
It's, you know, it's not going to hurt you. It just stings a little bit, a lot. It's like they're firing over there now.
The wind goes this way, so everything that's aimed that way and everything that's thrown this way comes across this position. And unfortunately, we haven't got the advantage of having gas masks, so I have to say it's pretty insufferable stuff. It does what it says on the side of the can.
He comes really close. Look at this boy. You haven't got smell-o-vision yet, but trust me, you've been leaving your route. Look, for me, this is a complete pointless exercise because at the end of the day, they're going to go home and they're going to go home. And you know what? What's been achieved? Not very much, I would suggest. And, wow, that stuff is incredible.
After 5 hours of confrontation, both sides are returning home after yet another day of fighting between Arab and Jew, a battle that has lasted over 60 years. But the fence remains, and the Israelis have held their ground. The wall here is protecting Israeli houses that have been built on Palestinian land and are occupied by Israeli settlers against international law. I wanted to find out what these settlers felt about their presence here. This Israeli village of Hashmonaim is home to over 2,000 settlers, and one of them is Ken Mitchell.
Ken?
Hi.
Pleased to meet you. Hello.
Bruchim Abaim. Welcome to our home.
Very much. May I come in? That's very kind.
Come on in.
Hello, everybody.
Ken moved here from America 2 years ago with his wife and 3 children to what he sees as his Jewish homeland. He lives 400 meters from the wall and a kilometer inside Palestinian territory.
And of course, the security fence is there, just over there.
Indeed, right there.
When you found out that that there is tear gas there and there is there's stones thrown over from the other side, did that have any kind of? Did it make any kind of judgment for you about where you were going to live, or did you just accept it?
No, we're very, very happy here.
Yeah.
And the quality of life is wonderful.
Mm.
We treat the fence as a security measure and not a political border. And so while many of us wish that this fence were not there, the evidence that it is part of, among other things, is helping to drastically reduce the amount of suicide bombing is clear, and so we live with it.
What do you think about the guys on the other side of the fence?
I have no ill intentions towards them. At the same time, I want to send a clear message that we have no intention of leaving, as we don't ask them to leave.
Under international law, Ken's house has been built illegally on occupied territory. and he is just one of 500,000 Jewish settlers in the West Bank and East Jerusalem whose homes breached the Geneva Convention on Human Rights. I've been in Israel for a week. Now I'm heading into the disputed territory to the west of the Jordan River, known as the West Bank. Over the last 20 years, this land has seen some of the fiercest fighting between Arab and Jew, and what happens here will decide whether Israel will find true peace with its neighbours.
We've just gone through an Israeli checkpoint into the West Bank, and it's been pointed out to us by our fixer that, you know, crossing over that line into what is predominantly Arab territory is not a problem. Coming back the other way, however, is a completely different ballgame. And you can tell, you know, very, very quickly, once you're across that border, that the atmosphere also has changed. We're very much in a different territory.
In 1967, a coalition of Arab armies massed on Israel's borders, ready to invade. But Israel launched a preemptive strike against them in what became known as the Six-Day War, crushing the combined armies of Egypt, Syria and Jordan, and taking control of the West Bank, home to almost 1 million Palestinians. Despite condemnation from the international community and the United Nations, Israel has kept control of nearly all of the West Bank to this day, laying down the foundations for the expansion of the Jewish state by subsidizing cheap homes for Israelis.
Very famous Israeli minister, Ariel Sharon, once said, grab every hilltop. And the one thing you notice once you enter the West Bank, there are certain buildings that are definitely not Arab, that are placed right on the top of certain hilltops.
Many Jewish settlers regard this as their God-given homeland, but the Arabs, and even some Israelis, define their presence here as an illegal occupation.
We've just gone through a checkpoint. We're now in a settlement in the West Bank, and we're about to meet up with Daniela Weiss, and she's known, apparently, as the Queen of the settlers. Daniela, can you tell me why we've stopped here and what's going on?
Yes, we are now on the way to one of the mountain-ridge settlements, Itzhar, a very important strategic location and settlement. We know that this is the most important place for the Jewish nation because here we became a nation. We were standing here 3,000 years ago, here. And Joshua, who brought us from Egypt, he showed us the heart of the land of Israel, and he said, here we became a nation.
You think by not owning this piece of land, you'd use your identity?
On the whole, I think that the element that gives strength to the nation, and everybody knows it, is what we do on the hills. Everybody knows it. And this is exactly the reason why we cling to it, hold to it.
But do you not think that other people who live here might see it in a different way?
Yeah, but you mean the Arabs who live here?
Yes, of course.
Somehow, in the 2,000 years that we were scattered all over the world, they didn't have a state of their own here because this land, as the prophets said, gives itself only to the Jewish people. There we go.
You go.
Okay.
The West Bank is now home to nearly 500,000 Jewish settlers, but their presence here is a divisive issue in Israel. They're not popular with the Israeli majority, who see the occupation of the West Bank as provocative to the Palestinians and a cause for tension and terrorist attacks. Even American President Barack Obama has asked for a freeze on all settlement building in the West Bank.
What's going on here?
Good things. Good things.
Building.
Yeah, sure.
Do you see a time when people can live in peace with each other here?
The Arabs will never have a state of their own in the Holy Land. Never. Shalom.
With Arab communities on all sides, Israeli settlements here have tight security.
We're having difficulty getting in. There's obviously clearly a lot of suspicion, particularly about news crews coming in. Shalom. And we're trying to get a way in at the moment.
ולא רוצים לצלם כאן בשום אופן את הבנייה. Okay, no taking pictures of the building here. We are just going to the outpost, and that's it.
I think we're in.
Is the #1 influence in this. Yeah.
The vanguard of the settler movement is known as the Hilltop Youth, who continue to build outposts on Palestinian hillsides under the guidance of Daniela Weiss.
What we do, we actually continue what Ariel Sharon said, take every hilltop.
This is this guy's home.
Yes.
And this is, by being here, he's claiming it for the Jewish people, yeah?
Right.
This plywood building is where these young guys who are building the stone house are living. And you can see from the state of it and how they're living, the commitment they're showing to their cause.
האבות שלנו חיו פה, ובורא, שמראה את העולם, נתן את הארץ הזאת לנו. ואנחנו גרים פה, זה הבית שלנו. אנחנו קוראים לעם ישראל עכשיו להתעורר בכל הגלות, איפה שהוא לא נמצא. לחזור לארץ ישראל וליישב את ארץ ישראל. כל ארץ ישראל השלמה, כן.
It's the past, the present, and future of our nation. Nothing changed the original promise of God to the nation that this land will belong only to the Jewish nation.
Three young men behind me are the vanguard of the settler movement here. The simple stone house that they're building is creating facts on the ground, and the ramifications of what they're doing are being felt all the way to Washington, and are also having a dramatic effect on the peace process here in the Middle East.
This minority of Jewish settlers are driven by a religious zeal to claim the land that they say God gave them 3,000 years ago. But this kind of religious fundamentalism seems at odds with the secular Israel that exists just 25 miles away in Tel Aviv. Shenkin Street is the heart of the secular community in Israel. Jonathan Yavin is a columnist on a local newspaper.
Jonathan, this is a very secular community where we are now. Do you think is that representative of the whole of Israel, the people that live here?
I would hardly say so. I think it's representative for the Tel Aviv region, which is has kind of locked itself inside of a bubble. Everybody here has, is buying all the time and getting getting big in the rat race and trying to get a bigger TV and forget as much as they can. And people here are acting as if nothing concerns them, like it's somewhere in Africa that these things happen. And another thing is that we've grown tired of doing what our government, of what our atheists thinks that we should do. It's like everybody just doesn't want to know, and everybody just want to live a normal life.
I don't feel dangerous to come out of my house and have a good time and go out. I do it every day. You have to keep living. You have to keep living. So don't think about it. And you keep go and eat and buy stuff and travel. You can't think about it all the time.
Nitzan Horowitz is a left-wing MP who lives in Tel Aviv.
The fact that we are not fighting all the time and we are not hardliners and we are not jumping on those hills in Judea and Samaria and trying always to oppress the Palestinians doesn't mean that we are not for the security of Israel. But if you come from the religious point of view, you have God on your side, you believe that you are some kind of a modern-day prophet or something, then there is no dialogue. There is no common ground. If we wish to have normal life in Israel, we should go on the secular track. Otherwise, we will deal with extremists on both sides. Extreme settlers, ultra-Orthodox, religious, and on the other side, the same for Muslims. Let the Palestinians have their own state. Let them take care of their own problems. Let us take care of our problems.
Do you think that it's fear on both sides that are stopping people from actually having or getting to a lasting peace?
Honestly, I don't think they have time to fear. They're too busy shopping.
I'm nearing the end of my time in Israel, and I'm back in Jerusalem where this journey began. What I've discovered is a nation with divisions, not just with its neighbours, but with itself. Nowhere are these more obvious than in this ancient city. Here the police don't just keep an eye on the drunks and criminals, but must patrol the fault lines between the secular and the Orthodox, as well as the Jews and the Arabs.
Just about to go on patrol with the Israeli police in West Jerusalem. They have a really tough job. This is a divided city. They have to deal with different communities and people from different religions. You've got Orthodox Jews, secular, and also you have the Arab Israelis.
We've only been on the road a matter of minutes when the patrol spots a suspicious vehicle. It has an Israeli number plate, but is carrying 3 Palestinians.
Whereabouts are these guys from, do you think? Sorry?
East Jerusalem.
East Jerusalem, yeah.
With the threat of car bombs and weapon smuggling in the city, the patrol pulls it over and conducts a full search.
All of them, we have a lot of criminal records.
Can you tell us what for?
Everything. Assault, drugs, robbery, everything.
Right, okay. Our 3 gentlemen that were smiling over there all have previous convictions for carrying weapons, for drugs and for robbery. Yeah.
Let them enjoy their evening.
Absolutely. Enjoy your evening.
Having found nothing suspicious or illegal, the 3 men are given the all clear and allowed on their way. 1 mile down the road, we cross out of Arab East Jerusalem and enter Jewish West Jerusalem.
We're going to a ultra-Orthodox area called Mea Sharim, the 100 Gates.
This Jewish community with its extremist agenda is the fastest growing religious group in Israel.
They don't like the camera. They certainly don't like the camera here, that's for sure. We are certainly getting some pretty funny looks from a lot of the people here. I don't think we're that welcome.
Many here reject the laws of the land and don't even recognize the state of Israel, as it's a nation founded by man and not by God. They frequently clash with the government and local police when the state veers away from a purely religious path.
Anybody that's from outside the community is not trusted, and tensions at the moment are running quite high between the ultra-Orthodox and the police here. A lot of the people here regularly call the police Nazis. So interesting, you know, you've got a Jewish police force set up for the protection of Jews, and the people that live here don't really want them here. And it just goes to show that there's more than just one division between Muslim and Jew here. There are many, many different types of divisions going on here.
It strikes me that the Jerusalem police not only patrol a divided country, but they have to control this hatred on all sides that's been born out of decades of fighting and division. If I've learned one thing in my short time in Israel, it's that it's this hatred on all sides that is standing in the way of peace. Before I leave Israel, I've come to say goodbye to Amos Levy, whose 17-year-old daughter Rachel was killed by a suicide bomber in a Jerusalem supermarket.
What do you feel about people that are prepared to kill other people like that? How do you feel about that? What's your feeling for them?
Some people getting much more angry than me. Some people much more angry and say the animal, the killers.
Do you think that's the way that most people who live in Jerusalem think about it, or most people who live in Israel?
Many of them.
Today, Amos has invited me to his daughter's graveside, which he regularly visits with his ex-wife Abigail and his 15-year-old son Kobe. I want to find out what effect the tragedy has had on Rachel's mother.
Do you think that your views on what goes what's happening here and what has happened here has changed since Rachel's death?
Yeah, I changed. Yeah, I changed a lot. I don't have no mercy for no one. When I lost her, I actually lost my life. That's it. Because I can hear every day in the news, you know, how much they care about the loss of the Israeli people. How they care about the Palestinians, what they're losing, what the miserable life they have. But they don't think about us and our loss. You can go take Gaza Strip and you see how they live in hunger, okay? But who brought them to this situation? The hate that what they're doing to us.
Do you not feel that there are also some good people that live in Gaza?
Yeah, but yeah, I know. There is a lot of people that live in Gaza. But the people in Gaza, they don't care shit about life, okay? They don't care about their life. They are terrorists. They are terrorists, okay? And the land is not the issue here, believe me. It's the hate. Because Hezbollah don't hate us because we are here in Israel. Hezbollah hate us because we are Jewish, we are Israeli. And the same like the Hamas, is nothing gonna change. Even we're gonna give them all over. We are not in Gaza, so why they fight with us?
I say it's all about hate.
Hate, sorry.
It's all about hate. Yeah, Muslim and Jews hate each other. Yeah, that's right.
Do you think that will ever stop?
With some of them, from the both sides, can stop, but generally not.
This is a land that's been fought over for thousands of years. And ever since its birth 60 years ago, Israel has had to fight to survive. The one thing I have learned in the short period of time that I've been here is that Israel's war today is not only being waged on its borders, but also within the divisions of its own people. Most Israelis want to live in peace alongside their Arab neighbors and with themselves. But as in any conflict, it's the extremists that grab the headlines and set the agenda. My feeling is that it's up to the majority of ordinary people here on both sides of the conflict that have suffered so much to speak with one voice and negotiate for a lasting peace.